Hello, I'm Charles Lowther. Welcome to Askham Hall and the next of our seasonal films. Each month, we'll be exploring elements of this wonderful living estate, 1,000 years in the making. I hope you enjoy this next short film.
I'm Marie-Louisa. I grew up at Askham Hall here with my brother Charles, and we now run Askham Hall as a business together. Askham Hall was our former family home. It was also the home of our father, the 7th Earl of Lonsdale, and our half-brothers and sisters grew up here as well. As we were growing up, it was a very idyllic childhood. Looking back, we spent much of our time riding our ponies on the estate, playing hide and seek in the house. We used to invite our friends over from school to play, and they obviously loved it. And the best place is, in fact, that staircase leading out of the stone room here behind the curtain that goes all the way up to Lonsdale bedroom, the secret passage. My favourite memory of childhood is taking our ponies out on the estate and riding for hours and hours and hours, galloping around the estate. That's all we used to do when we came home from boarding school during the holidays, is we'd just go out riding all the time. Dogs are a very important part of our family, and a long line of Jack Russell Terriers can be traced right back until the 1950s in this family, one of which we still have today. Our parents loved dogs, in particular Jack Russell Terriers were a strong feature of the house over the years. We can trace the history of our family back to the Vikings, and a descendant of the Viking called Dolphin settled in the area in 1150. The area was named Lowther, which was an Anglo-Saxon word for foaming river, named after the River Lowther. It was our great uncle who lived at Lowther Castle, the Yellow Earl. He was quite infamous, called the Yellow Earl because he liked to have everything in yellow. He had a yellow livery, he had yellow Labradors. He was a founding member of the Automobile Association, the AA, which is still yellow. Some examples of his extravagance were that he travelled with his own orchestra. He spent over £2,000 on a year on cigars. He went on a polar expedition, which in those days was obviously a very extravagant thing. He had strong royal connections as well, and he was good friends with Kaiser Wilhelm, the German king, and he used to come and stay. But he did manage to spend the family fortunes rather dramatically, and as a result, the family couldn't afford to live in Lowther Castle anymore, partly also due to the Second World War. Our father didn't want to live there because it seemed very extravagant in those times. The roof was taken off, and it was left to ruin for over 50 years. And that's why our father ended up living at Askham Hall. In 2011, our half-brother Jim took on Lowther Castle and has renovated it into this fantastic tourist attraction for people to enjoy. And they've done a brilliant job, and it's really fantastic for us to be so close and for our guests to be able to visit as well and learn more about the history and heritage of the family. Askham Hall itself is a 12th century peel tower, in fact from the late 1200s, and it was originally a fortified peel tower, which was a structure local to this area where animals lived below and people lived above, and it was used during the fighting between the Picts and the Scots at the time. After that, Askham Hall became a rectory, and then it was bought by a family called the Sandford family, who owned it for over 350 years. And they turned it into Grand Elizabethan Mansion, adding on various wings in the 16th, 17th century. Then the Lowther family bought Askham Hall in the 1830s, and it was at the time thoroughly modernised by our grandfather Anthony, who put in electrics and built on newer extensions, and so our family have owned it for around 200 years. The downstairs loo is listed, so it is very special. We could never take it out. The Duke of Edinburgh used to visit every year because he was a great fan of horse carriage driving. My father hosted the Lowther horse carriage driving trials since the 1970s. So the Duke of Edinburgh used to come every year and stay at Askham Hall, and on a couple of occasions the Queen did come with him as well. Duke of Edinburgh used to stay in what is now the Admiral's room, but when the Queen came, we needed to provide a separate bedroom for her as well. So our parents moved out of their room so that one of them could sleep in Lonsdale and the other one could sleep in the Admiral's room. The children lived in the 17th century back wing with our nanny, and my first bedroom was what is now Griffin. Charles's first bedroom was what is now the bathroom of Cherry, and later on Charles lived in Griffin, and Cherry was my bedroom for most of my childhood. The bedroom that is now the old playroom was in fact our nursery, which is why it's called the old playroom. So that was our bit of the house, as it were. I'm a lady, so all the daughters of the Earls are a lady and the boys are an honourable. My husband and I, Chris, have 2 children, and Charles and his wife Juno have 3 children. It would be lovely if they'd like to be involved in Askham Hall as they grow up. We hope that they will be, but we'll have to see what happens and what the future holds. In Cumbria, in the farming community, we have a word called Hefted, which comes from sheep farming, where Herdwick sheep in particular are always naturally drawn back to the same area where they came from. Having spent about 30 years coming and going whilst going to university, boarding school, travelling, and then permanently living back here, eventually I felt hefted to this place. It's the only really way to describe it.